Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C-137. Don't mean you any harm. Coming in peace. It's all cool in the, good in the neighborhood is what I was trying to is what I meant.
Right, so this video is going to be how to rig a head to turn left and right and to move up and down and be all controlled by one bone. So this is the animation we made from the last video.
Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C-137. Don't mean you any harm. Coming in peace. It's all cool in the, good in the neighborhood.
And so now, turn the timeline on. Now what we're going to be able to do is with just this one bone right over here, I can go through the timeline, even though I've already created the animation. I can click on the base of it and then go forward a little bit, turn his head, maybe have him look downward. Click on it again, have him look upward.
C-137, don't mean you any harm.
Have him look to the right.
Mean you any harm. Coming in peace. It's all cool. 137, don't mean you any harm. Coming in peace. It's all cool.
So you can see that we can turn the head in a lot of different positions without having to do a lot of work, which I think is really cool.
It's all cool
by just going through the timeline really fast and
in the good in the
oops, right there. Pupils went out of his head for a second, so let me adjust that. There we go.
Good in the neighborhood is what I was trying to. Is what I was trying to come. Is what I meant.
So yeah, that's what we're going to learn how to do today. So check it out. Alright, so we left off last time with Rick's head being done in the front facing motion, or front position. And I made this animation here. Let me hide the reference picture.
Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C-137. Don't mean you any harm. Coming in peace. It's all cool in the good in the neighborhood is what I was trying to is what I meant.
Which looks pretty good, but we want to add a head turn so we can really add some dynamic movement to it. So I'm going to go back to frame 0. And on the head group, I'm going to hit A or click on this button right here, which is the Add Bones tool. Make sure none of the other bones are selected in your face. And we'll go ahead and draw a new bone. I'll click on the bone strength and left click and drag to the left to turn it down. Then I'll hit B. And I'm going to go ahead and color it and show the label. And rename this head turn. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and click on Window. Click on Actions, and we're going to create a new head turn action. And make sure you select the Smart Bones tab, and you're on the head bone group. We'll go ahead and click New, and make sure you name it exactly the same as your bone, head turn. And if you named it correctly, it should turn blue. And we're going to stay on frame 1. We don't need to go way out into the timeline. I see a lot of people doing that where they think they need a bunch of frames to create this movement. And we just need to stay on frame 1. And I'm going to hit T. I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees to the right. So on frame 1, we can see we made a keyframe for the head turn. And the we want to be able to use the reference photo. So I'm going to turn that back on. And that's inside my head group, so I can move it in the action. And I'm going to go ahead and select my styles. I hair color. I'm going to go ahead and turn that down, the alpha channel, so I can see through it. And I'll go ahead and do the same for the skin color. Let's go ahead and turn that down for a second. And let's go ahead and actually I'm going to go back out of the head turn for a second. Double click on the timeline, or main timeline. Hit Q. I'm going to select the eye and select the white of the eye. And I'm just going to make that a style as well. So we'll go new. We'll just call it eye color. That way we can recolor the eyes really easy too later on. And then I'll go ahead and select the right eye. Hit Q. And select the right eye. And go ahead to style and hit eye color on that as well. And let's go back into the head turn. And let's go ahead and turn the eye color down as well, just so we can see through it. Because we're going to go ahead and click on the model sheet, or the reference layer. And I'm going to drag this over to his head being turned in a 3/4 position. And we're just going to do it to the 3/4 position because you can do 90% of your animations. I mean, you can do, it depends on what type of animation you're doing, but like sitcoms like Simpsons and American Dad and things like that, majority of the time they're in this position or turning left and right. So it's going to be a little easier to do. And we'll go ahead and start repositioning things. Now, since the mouths are in switch layers, we'll click on the mouth group and click on the transform layer tool. And we're just going to move it over to the right. So I'm going to click in the center and move this over. And we can see underneath where the mouth is. So we're just going to center it where the teeth is. Or the center of the mouth group. I'm just going to kind of put right between his eyes on the reference layer. And then I'll go ahead and let's change the point of origin. I'm going to put this over on the left side of the mouth. That way when I do a transform layer, I can see how I grab the right side and it doesn't move from the left. That's because I put that point of origin over there. So I'm going to go ahead and move this side of the mouth over, and I'll go ahead and extend this to where it needs to be. So right about there. Then we'll go ahead and, instead of clicking on the eyebrow layer, we're going to click on the head bone group, because the eyebrow, remember, we made in connected to bones. So we're going to actually move the bones. And I'm going to hit T, and I'll grab the center bone of the eyebrow, move that into position. It's in between the eyes of the reference layer. And then we're going to foreshorten this right side of the eyebrows. I'm using my mouse wheel to zoom in and spacebar to pan around to move left, right, up and down. And I'm going to grab the end of the bone and just shrink it and foreshorten it. So his eyebrow is right there. And we'll go ahead and leave the left side alone, because that's how it looks when it's turned. Go ahead and select the nose. I'll do a Command A. That selects all of the points. Hit T. Move this over to the right. I'll hit T again and kind of just readjust the nose so it's pointing to the right somewhat. Then we'll go ahead and select the left eye. Command A again, grabbing all of the points. And I'm holding Shift down. Again, I just want to move him left to right because we're going to make another action to tilt the head up and down. So we'll get that in the right place. I'm going to hit G, select the pupil, and just move that over a little bit because that's how it is on the reference layer. And we'll select the right eye. Command A, select all the points, hit T, move that over. And you can see it's been foreshortened a little bit. So we're going to do the same thing that we did with the mouth. Select the point of origin. Select the left side of the eye. Then hit transform layer. And that way we can squash and stretch it from that point of origin. So Just grabbing this side and making it like that. I'm going to hit G, grab that pupil and move that over a little bit too, so it still looks centered. Like that. Then we're going to select the left ear. And actually, that doesn't really move a lot. Actually, we're just going to leave that in place. Where's the other ear? Right ear underneath the head. There we go. Command A to select it. We're going to move it behind the head because he's turning it. We'll select the head group, or head layer, I should say. Let's go ahead and adjust it just a little bit. Hit T. And again, I'm just moving him left to right, not up and down. And I'm moving the center point of his chin over to here. A little bit. Oops. I know it's a little bit off the reference picture, but wait. That's about right. Well, actually, that looks about right. Let's leave. His head is pill shaped, so it kind of stays the same. Okay, so that's, oh no, got to do the hair. Click on the hair, and I'm going to hit T and grab these points. This is probably the most I use the reference picture for, is this hair, because it does have volume, so it's a little harder than just squashing and stretching. So I'm using this reference layer because I think it helps a lot more. Just moving these points a little bit. And now I'm going to use the magnet tool, which is just a circle. And you can change the size by changing the number up here. But it grabs a bunch of points at once. So I'm just kind of going to move a bunch of points. Kind of push those in. Hit T so I can kind of fine tune again. And oops. Looks like these go up some. And those are hidden by the head, back of the head, so, or front of the head, so we can leave them like that. Let's go ahead and turn the opacity back up real quick on all the styles. Skin color. I'm just doing this really quick to test. Oh, hair. And the hair color. Turn that up. And double click back into the timeline. So if we're in the timeline, and let's close this action window for a second, and I hit T on the bone group and turn it. Oh, the background image is moving just because we moved it in the action. Let's hide that for a second. So there he's turning to the right. We'll just do the exact same thing for the other way. And let's turn that reference picture back on. Go back to frame 0. Make sure you're on frame 0 and you're on the head bone group. Go to actions. Make sure you click on the smart bone tab. New action, head, turn, space, 2. And that's going to make a new action for that same bone, but we're going to make it go the other way. So let me move this out of the way. I'll hit T, grab the center of the bone and rotate it to the left 90 degrees. And let's go ahead and do the same thing. Turn the skin color down and the hair color, alpha channel down, and the eyes. And let's just go through those layers again real quick. Click on the mouth group, transform layer, or actually wait, let's move the reference picture. We're gonna flip it because we need it to go the other way. So I'll flip that and I'm gonna move it over line it up right about there. And click on the mouths. Hit T, move that group over. And then I'll go ahead and adjust the point of origin. Put that on the right side of the mouth. Hit transform layer. That way I can squash and stretch it from that side. Right about there. And remember, the eyebrow, we're going to move the bone instead. So click on the bone group. Hit T. Grab that center bone. Move that over to where the center of the eyes would be. Between the reference picture. Let me change the eye color so it's see-through. Right there. So we're in between that picture right there, right about here. And again, using my mouse wheel to zoom in and out. And then I'll hit T. I'm grabbing the very end points of these bones to foreshorten. See how I'm just shrinking those down? On just that side, leave the other side alone. Go to the nose, Command A. And then T. Move that over. And readjust the bone, or I mean the points a little bit. I'll fix that line right there afterwards. Click on left eye, Command A selects everything, hit T, move that over. Let's go ahead and change the point of origin. Put that on the right side of the eye, transform layer. That way we can squash and stretch it this way. I'll hit G. Grab the pupil, hit T, and move that over a little bit so it looks centered. And then we'll grab the right eye, Command A, grabs all the points, T, moves the eyeball over. I'll go ahead and hit G and grab that pupil and move that over just a tiny bit. Then we'll grab the left ear, Command A, T, hide it behind the head. And we want to make sure that that goes behind the head. So let's go ahead and double click the head group and click on depth sort and enable animated layer order. Click on that and hit apply. And then we're going to drag and drop. Where is it? Left ear. Make sure that that goes underneath the head. So we'll drag and drop that so it goes hidden. Like that. And then the right ear. We want to bring that above the head group. Or the head layer. And hit T, move it over just a little bit, I think. And then we'll go ahead and click on the head. Let's readjust the head shape just a little tiny bit. Again, it really doesn't change that much because it's kind of pill shaped. So I'm just moving this over just a little bit. Like that. And we'll click on his hair. Do the same thing that we did before. I'll hit T. And let's go ahead and move these points individually. You don't click right on the point. If you're really close, it's going to grab that point anyway. So and grab these points over here. Okay, almost done. Moving points. Let's. Okay. Wait. There we go. Okay. Let's turn the styles back up for a second. Okay. Skin color. And the hair color. Turn that up. So yeah, we just went to the keyframe 1. Again, we don't have to add a whole lot of space. A lot of people adding space to their smart bone actions. You don't need to do that if you're making one movement. If you're making several, then you would, but this is just for a turn. So we do everything on frame 1, and if I double click back into the timeline, let's hide the actions and click on the head bone group. Let's go in here. And now, that same exact animation that we had, let's go ahead and add some turns just so you can see that we can do that even after we've made an animation. Turn that up a little bit. So I'll go in here. I'll hit T, click on the head turn. Turn his head a little bit this way. Oh, it's moved. The reference layer is moving because we moved it in the action. So let's turn that off.
Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C130.
Then I'll click on the bone again. Go ahead and turn him this way.
Coming in peace.
Click on his bone again. So you can see now we can add a head turn into this animation.
Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C137. Don't mean you any harm. Coming in peace. It's all cool in the good.
But now we want to add a head tilt up and down a little bit. So, oh, let me fix the right ear. The masking is messed up, so we need to change this masking to don't mask this layer and hit apply. That way his ear's there.
Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C137. Don't mean you any harm. Coming in peace. It's all cool in the
There we go. So we've got the head turn left and right. Let's go ahead and add a head tilt. Now this I'm not going to use a reference layer for because they don't have his head tilting up or down. So we're just going to kind of make it up. So I'm going to go ahead and hit B on frame 0 and go ahead, make sure you're on the head bone group and click on the canvas somewhere just to make sure none of the other bones are selected. I'll hit A and I'm going to add one sideways, dragging left to or right to left. Click on the bone strength, turn that down by left clicking and dragging to the left. I'll go ahead and hit B. Call this head tilt. And go ahead and show label. I'll make this yellow too, just so we know that it's part of the head tilting. Tilting and turning. And we'll go ahead and go to new actions. And click on Smart Bone, tab, new action, type in head tilt, hit OK, and it'll turn blue if you typed it in correctly. And I'm going to go ahead and hit T. I'm going to rotate it upwards, this bone. And then, so since his head's kind of pill-shaped, all we're going to do is really foreshorten his head shape. And kind of readjust his hair, squash and stretch the hair a little bit. So for the mount, let's do his head first. So click on the head, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Command A, so it selects all the points of his head. I'm going to change the point of origin to right where the base of his neck would be, where his head would tilt, so right about by the bottom of his mouth. Right about there. I'll hit Transform Layer Tool. I'm going to hold Option down so it squashes and stretches at the top and bottom from the point of origin. So it'll just go like that. I'm going to do the same thing with this hair. Click on his hair, change the point of origin to the back of the, where the base of the neck is, I suppose. Transform layer, and we'll go ahead and squash that a little bit. And since his head's tilting upward, his nose is going to go upward. So we'll click on his nose. And let's just flip it. So I'm going to grab his nose and flip it like this. So his nose is kind of pointing upward. And we're going to move his mouth group. Let's go ahead and grab that. We can change the point of origin just so it's centered, so it looks better. Go ahead and move his mouth up a little bit. And we're actually going to move the eyebrows down because we're kind of scrunching his face together. So we'll click on the bone group, grab his eyebrows, move them like that. And then just for a final touch, well, let's do his ears just a little bit. We're going to move them up just a tad. So I'll hit T, hit A, so you or Command A to grab the points. Move them up just a little bit. Right ear, same thing. Command A, T, move them up just a tad. And then just to make it look like he's looking upwards or his head is tilting, let's go ahead and click on his eyes and grab his pupils. Command G, or just G. Grab a pupil, hit T, move that up like that. And then right eye, same thing. Grab that pupil and move that up like that. Okay? And then we're doing this all on frame 1 again. Remember, you don't have to put a bunch of space in for the program to kind of figure it out. It'll figure it out between your movements all by itself. So double click back in the timeline. Let's test it out. Go back into the timeline, go into the bone group. So we have the head turn, left and right. Now we have the head tilting upward. I think I need to move his point of origin for his nose though, because that doesn't flip quite right. Let's go ahead and do that now actually. Let's go back to frame 0. Open the actions window, double click the head tilt and nose. I'm going to delete that keyframe that we made. Let's move his point of origin right here to the base of the nose. And then flip it. So it'd be more like that. Actually, let's move it right right there. We can tweak it later again. Let's just test it out and see. So go into the timeline and let's go ahead and test the turn. Nice. Head tilt. It's not perfect, but it's good enough because when you kind of combine the actions together, it's going to look a lot more fluid, I guess. So let's go ahead and do the same thing with the head tilt down. Go to frame 0. Head group is selected. Actions. New smart bone action. Head tilt 2. Now if I type this in correctly, like I do head tilt 3 and hit spacebar, or I mean return, nothing happens. So just be aware that when you type in an action incorrectly, it won't show up as blue. So let's try that again. Head tilt space 2. So this is going to be our downward action. It turned blue, so it's correct. Hit T. Rotate the bone downward 90 degrees. And we'll do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and grab his head. And the origin point has been changed already, so I'll click Transform Layer Tool, hold the Option down, squish his head. Do the same for his hair. Hold down Option, squish the hair. Now facing forward is we might get some hair coming up here. Though we can fix that later too. So let's do the mouth. This time his mouth's going to go way down. So we're going to go down like this. His nose is not going to change. We're just going to bring it down and overlap the mouth a little bit. And actually, let's go ahead and make sure that nose goes over the mouth. So we'll drag that up above the mouths. And since we turned on animated sorting layers, it should just do that automatically. And then we'll grab his left eye, Command A, T, move his eye down, hit G, grab that pupil, hit T, move that down, and then we'll do the right eye, Command A, T, move this eye down, hit G, grab that pupil, and move it down. And then eyebrow, we're going to grab the bone, so click on the bone group, hit T, grab that center bone at the base, the fattest part of the bone, move that down, right there, and it should be good. Yeah, I am going to have to make his hair come up a little bit, I think. Yeah, I think we can. Well, I'll show you how to do that here in a second too. So let's go back to the main timeline. And again, I just like testing it out a lot. So we'll go into the timeline. And we have the head tilt. So it looks down, down and up, and left to right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. But now here's the really fun part, or the real cool, tricky part. I'll show you here in just a second. Okay, so this technique I got from a YouTube user named Majid ShirAli. Sorry if I mispronounced that. He's a YouTuber that used Anime Studio, or actually MOHO 12, to create this technique. And it's, if you want to see how it's professionally done, check the link in the description below. It's amazing. He hasn't posted anything in a couple years, but it's awesome. So it's basically a way to control the head with one bone. So we have, again, here's the animation.
Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C137.
That I already made from the last video. But now we have the ability to turn the head left and right. Ooh, I need to fix that mouth real quick. Let me, actions, head turn. Let's make sure that mouth is over here. There we go. Okay. So we have the head turn, oops, left to right, and then we have the tilt up and down. Which is pretty cool. And you can just use that if you want, but I'm going to show you this technique, and I think it's pretty amazing. So go ahead and hit Command G. That's going to bring up the grid. If you don't have a grid or it's too big, do a Command Shift G, and then just type in 10 or a smaller number, and it'll give you a smaller grid. And I'm going to go ahead and go to frame 0, add a new vector layer, and call this head control. And this layer it's really just for our reference to where we're going to put the bone. So I'm going to drop it in the head group. Then I'll select shape, create shape. We'll do a circle. And I'm going to hold Shift and Option down so it creates a perfect circle. I'm just going to draw one over here. And since I dropped it in the head group, it's masked. So go ahead and double click that. Click Mask and click Don't Mask this layer. And we've got this circle right here. Now we're going to move the bones into position. Click on the bone group on frame 0, remember. And we're just moving this bone right into the center, bottom center, pointing at this circle. Then I'll go ahead and move the tilt bone to the side and pointing to the center, dead center of the circle. Again, you can adjust your bone, but I'm just using the grid so I can make it really precise. I'm going to hit B and click on the canvas to make sure nothing is selected. We don't want any bones parented or connected to any other bones right now. I'll go ahead and hit A. We'll add a new bone right here. just on top of the head turn bone. We'll just call this turn for short, just so it's easily referenced from the head turn. Hit return, hit B. Then I'm going to go ahead and turn the bone strength down. Left click and drag to the left. Hit B again. Let's go ahead and label it. I'm going to turn the color on, although at the end we're going to hide these. Then I'll hit B again. Click on the canvas. Again, we're doing this so none of these bones are connected or parented to one another. We'll draw another bone over here, next to the head tilt, and we'll just call it tilt. Turn the bone strength down again. Hit B. Go ahead and turn on the label and all that jazz. And I'll hit B again. Click on the canvas so nothing's parented. And now this is the main bone that we're going to make. We'll just draw that right in the dead center of that circle. Turn the bone strength down. We'll rename this head control. And turn the label on, color it. Okay, now, so what we're going to do is we're going to tell the head turn bone, I'll hit B and select it. And I want to go over to bone constraints, and I want that to be always pointing to the turn bone, that little one that we just made. So we do target, turn. And you see that little target connected those? So now it's always going to point to that one. And we're going to do the same with the side, the tilt one. Hit B, select the head tilt bone. We want to target the little one, the tilt bone, and that's targeted there now too. You see that little dot or ring of dots? Ring of dots. Target. Okay. So now those are pointing. Now we want to do, now what we want to do is take those little bones. So I'll select, hit B and select the turn bone. And we want its position to be controlled by this head control bone. So we'll go to position. We'll select head control. But we only want it to go left and right. So we want it to control just the X position. So I think we need to make, I think the Y is the second parameter right here. So we're going to leave this at 1 and type 0 for the Y coordinate. Then we'll do the opposite for the tilt bone. So hit B, select the tilt bone. We also want this to be controlled by the head control bone, but we only want the Y position. So we'll go ahead and type 0 for the X, so it doesn't move left and right, only up and down. And then we'll close this, and let's see if I did that right. We'll go into the timeline. I'm going to hit Command G just to hide the grid for a second. And with the bone group selected, I'll go ahead and hit T, grab this, and it's working. So you see the head turn and the head tilt are being controlled by these two bones, and these two bones are following this bone, only the X coordinate and the Y coordinate. So this actually can make your head turn in any direction that you've created. But I just realized something. You can't make the bones turn all the way down to their extreme position. So I just need to go in here really quick. Let's go into our actions. I'm going to double click the head turn. Oh, I did it. I already did that. So see, I had the bones turning 90 degrees like this, but I'm turning them to be, their extreme position is going to be 45 degrees. So I think I did that already. Oh no, so the turn to the left, I need to grab this and turn it up 45 degrees like that. Then the head tilt, we need to change that to 45 degrees. This is just so we get the full range of motion using this control bone, and then turn this 45 degrees as well. Go back to the timeline, So now, if I grab this, we can get all the extreme, you know, down right, down left, up. And you can see the artwork's not quite correct, but we can go back in and fix that a little later. But this shows you how you can make a control bone for pretty much any forward-facing face. And then, if you want to, just to clean up your workspace or your work area, we can hit B. Well, let's go back to, let's delete that for a second. Go back to frame 0, hit B, select the turn bone and the head tilt bones, all 4 of those, and then just go to bone and hide selected bones. Because we don't really need those. All we need is the head control, and we can actually make any position we want. So remember, this is the animation that we had made in the last video.
Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C137. Don't mean you any harm.
But now I can come in here and I can just click on the base of this bone to create a keyframe. Then I can go forward, have him turn. Oops, if I grab it, have him look down, go forward in the timeline, click it again, have him look up, make a keyframe, go forward a little bit.
Coming in peace. It's all cool.
Whoops. Since I moved the pupils a little bit in those turns, I'm just making sure they're still in his eyes.
It's all cool in the... It's all cool.
In the... Have him look down.
In the... Good. Good in the neighborhood is what I was trying to come. Is what I meant.
So now we've made the same exact animation, but now with head turns put into it.
Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C137. Don't mean you any harm. Coming in peace. It's all cool in the good in the neighborhood is what I was trying to come. Is what I meant.
And so now if you have that on your characters, you can animate their heads really dynamically. And the even with the heads turned, because some of these things are rigged, the bones for like the eyelids and stuff, they still work even when they're turned. So I think that's pretty cool. And that's it for this video. Hope it's not too long, but if you have any comments or questions, just leave them down below. Again, go check out Majid ShirAli's channel if you want to see how this really looks in a professional kind of situation. And yeah, thanks for watching. The next video is going to be building his body, and we should be done.
Listen, I'm Rick Sanchez from Earth Dimension C137. Don't mean you any harm. Coming in peace. It's all cool in the good in the neighborhood is what I was trying to come. Is what I meant.